What is up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Breathe and Air podcast, where everyday action meets extraordinary mindset. Today we have entrepreneur, someone who's going to change the world, Irrational Optimist, Jake Youngblood. Thank you so much for coming on the show, brother.
Bro, it's honestly, it's truly a pleasure to be on this. I've been following you for a while, so when you reached out to me, I told you the other day, like I kind of had a fangirl moment. So it's awesome to be here, bro. And I know we hung out the past couple of days and it's been a blast. So I'm excited to dive in and talk and, share with the world all the fun stuff we got planned. So, Thanks again for having me on.
Absolutely, man. It's crazy, the space that we're in and the power and the tools that we have at our disposal these days. Yeah. And I think this right here is a very good, illustration of how you can leverage the internet. You can meet amazing people and you can create lifelong friendships. So,
dude, yeah.
Fuck yeah, let's go.
Yeah, dude. It's funny though, because we hit it off. You messaged me and then we're like, let's hop on a Zoom. Let's get this a little bit more formal. We hopped on Zoom and I was like, within 5 minutes, I love this guy. I can see this guy be in my life for a long time.
Yeah.
And then we met up and hung out this weekend. It's like, dude, I feel like I've known you my entire life. It's just, the internet's crazy if it's done right though. You know what I mean? The networking and relationship building has got to be done correctly.
Absolutely. We're definitely going to dive into that today, but I kind of want to start, people know you and that know of you, know this side of Jake, that is the Irrational Optimist, that is the entrepreneur on the e-commerce space, that is doing all of these things and spreading positivity. But, you really had a start in the music industry as well. And maybe something that a lot of people don't know about you. So what was that like in the early stages? And how did you start falling in love with, the music industry and what you were doing there?
That's a great question. And as I dive into it, there's going to be a lot of correlations with business too, which is pretty fascinating. So what really started it was, are you familiar with Porter Robinson by any chance? He created Worlds and he basically created an entire genre of EDM. It was future-based. He basically started that. And that got released when I was a senior in high school. And seeing people's responses to that was just unbelievable, bro. He had a entirely sold out tour. I mean, people were just melting down by this guy's music and performance. Some people were even saying, you literally saved my life. And I had always been kind of an entertainer. I had done theater. I've done, sports. And you can relate to this. When you do something awesome on the court or whatever, and everybody just goes, erupts. It's a good feeling.
It's a great feeling.
Yeah, it's a great feeling. It's pretty magnetizing. And so seeing people's, response to his music and his album and performance, really inspired me, because I was who doesn't love music? You know what I mean? Yeah. And I loved a challenge. So I decided to spearhead making music, and I got FL Studio just because I wanted to make something and have people sing it back to me. You know what I mean? That really, really inspired me. And so got into FL Studio. For those that are, watching may not know what that is. It's called a digital audio workstation. It's primarily for Windows. So you make music online on the computer. And so I did that, and I basically kind of self-taught, watched a ton of YouTube videos, trial and error. And then it just kind of spiraled from there. And the funniest thing about it is that once I got more confident and more comfortable and started releasing out music that was getting, traction, and, I got on Trap Nation, all these big channels, was awesome. I realized hey man, I want to start performing now, big time. I want to play festivals. I want to do all this stuff. And the funniest thing ever, bro, and it's I was talking to Fitz about this. He's like, dude, you're doing cold outreach. The same way people do to find clients for the business. I would go and find artists who were kind of more on my level, who maybe I was hey, I might be making better music or this or that, but they're performing at festivals that I should be performing at as well. You know what I mean? There's no reason why this guy should be performing and I shouldn't. My music has even more listens, more feedback, but why is this guy doing it and I don't have it?
Right.
And so I would go and find these managers and their booking agents and then just find every contact information possible. I found them on Facebook, I found them on LinkedIn, I would scrape their emails and I would just blast emails every single day until, I got a manager and a booking agent. It was just kind of funny,
Yeah. It's interesting, the correlation there too, because I think we see it in the music industry. I think you see it in promoting, club promoters and nightlife as well. They're extremely good marketers. They're extremely good connectors.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And it's all skill-based, right? Everything you do in life is building skills. And, even if you're not exactly where you want to be, but the thing that you're doing is creating valuable skills that will be transferable no matter what you do or where you go, I feel like you're in a good spot.
Dude, you know what it is, bro? It really just kind of boils down to how bad you actually want. We all know motivation lasts about 30 minutes and it's discipline at the end of the day. And there was a point in my life where I was staying up till 3, 4 a.m. either making music or reaching out to people to get my name out there, or channels, or starting relationships with other artists for collaborations. I wanted it so bad. And I was going to a city college at the time in San Diego, and I didn't care about it at all.
Yeah.
I just want to make music
Yeah.
and blow up, and like obviously making the music industry is like hitting the lottery, but I wanted it so bad. And I got to experience some pretty cool things just because of that extra 10% of effort or whatever, even 1% of effort.
It's really just putting yourself out there, knowing what you want, having that vision, and being able to execute on it. Like you said, motivation is fleeting.
Yeah.
Short attention span universe that we live in today.
Yeah.
And it's important to be able to have those long-term goals, but kind of work backwards and like find happiness and success in the small micro wins that lead up to, that ultimate goal.
We talked about this last night, and also in a big addition to this like growth in the music industry and other parts of my business now is genuine relationship building. It truly is, especially in the music industry when it's full of sharks and people who are super transactional or stab you in the back. Like you can send one message and they'll know immediately, all right, this guy's full of shit, or he doesn't give a fuck about me. And that was a big thing. Like I'd always been kind of like a people person, and I never changed who I was. When I was reaching out to these people, I would constantly get messages back like, hey, this is like a breath of breath of fresh air. Yeah, I'm breathing air, man. And so it's like I just couldn't believe it, because like even if I just put even 50% more effort, I could have been even further.
Yeah, I feel like that's something you do a good job of, and you've realized is in a world now where everybody is maybe trying to be more transactional, like what can you do for me? What can you do for me? Leading with value is valuable. Right. And you got to be able to lead with that, because now more than ever, we have access to so many other people. And so with that opens up more opportunities for everybody else included to do those same outreaches. So what are you going to do that's differentiating yourself, your product, your service? But really at the end of the day, like you said, it's all about people.
So yeah, humans are just like inadvertently selfish. Just biologically, humans are just naturally selfish. So what you really got to do is that, you said lead with value. You got to propose them an offer where it literally makes no sense for them not to accept it. Just even with like business, right? So like all these people, we talked a little bit about this last night. These people the people out there that we want to either collaborate or be business partners with or special guests or whatever, they have all the money, they have all the contacts, they got everything. So it's like, why should I work with you?
Right.
I mean, you just give them such a great offer where it makes no sense not to.
You have had success in that space, and it's interesting, being able to see your transition now from music into the e-commerce space and into your entrepreneurial pursuits, which, like we said, you were already on that route early on. So what really made you transition and pivot, and what did that look like from music to what you're doing now?
That's a great question, because the pandemic hit. I had really no sense of direction in life. I had tried a bunch of different careers. I was an electrician, I went to college, electrical engineer, I was a laborer, I did a ton of things and none of it really stuck. Then the pandemic hit and I was like, all right, what am I, like 22 maybe? Yeah, like 22. And I'm like, all right, it's time. You know what I mean? Your parents can't subsidize you forever. And then simultaneously, I wanted to do a lot of things, but to do those things, you need money. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And like that was at the point in my life where it's like, all right, my parents are getting older. I shouldn't be asking them for money. I should be taking care of them.
Right.
Right. And like that always made me kind of feel bad whenever I was in a bad position asking for money. It's like, yo, I should be taking care of you guys. And so really what got me into it is I needed to make cash, and I was door dashing. He was like, what was the transition from getting in from like music all the way? So a big thing about me is that I have a lot of interest in a lot of hobbies. And obviously that costs money, whether it's rock climbing, mountaineering, wakeboarding, skydiving, learning how to fly a plane, traveling, whatever. It costs money. I'm like 21, 22 years old now. And I'm getting to the point where it's like, all right, you kind of need to establish yourself. You can't keep asking your parents for money. And that realization came from like, my parents are getting older, man. They can't just keep funding me. I should be taking care of them, or I should at least be working towards that. And pandemic started. And like I said, I had really no direction what was going on, but I needed to make like something to at least contribute. So I started door dashing, right? I mean, it's whatever. It was the only thing feasible at the time. The contracting company I was an electrician for was full. They weren't even really doing work, and it just didn't make sense. They didn't have any spots for me. So I started door dashing. And one of my best friends, his name is Ryan Do, his older brother, the Do Lab on Twitter, for anyone that's watching may know him. I had followed him on Twitter, but my Twitter wasn't the entrepreneurial side at the time. It was all EDM. So it was all like electronic artists and all that kind of stuff. But I would still see him tweet occasionally just about internet money stuff or entrepreneurship, and it like always fascinated me. I would see him tweet like something business related, and it's like, hey, I just made like $20,000 or something. I was like, okay, what's going on here? Because I've never even seen more than $1,000 in my bank account at the time. I was like, that just didn't even seem realistic. It was crazy. So I'm on a delivery and I have like 3 orders in my car, and I texted him. Even then I was like super respectful. I was like, hey man, I know you're busy. I see your stuff on Twitter. Like, even if I could have like 5 minutes of your time, I would really appreciate it. And just like, let me know like what you're up to, man. Like, is this even possible for me? Do I need a business degree? Like, what's going on? Because he went to UCLA, like really, really great academic. He's like, yeah, man, absolutely. And we hopped on like a 10-minute phone call, and he said, this is what you need to do. You need to buy Cold Emails course on how to, do outbound email marketing and get clients. And then you need to buy Pike's course on how to build an agency. And whatever that was, what like building an agency could have been, like lead generation, website design, any sort of service that you could charge a lot of money for. It's like, dang, man, I took a look at both the courses' websites. It's like, this is fascinating. And they were both just loaded with testimonials. And I believed it. And obviously I trusted his word. And so they, like collectively they were like $800, and I had like no money. And so DoorDash for another like 2 to 3 weeks, even asked my dad for a little bit of help on that. And I got the courses and I studied those religiously. Like, I studied because I wanted it so bad. I wanted to make money. It seemed so attainable. So I studied them religiously, like the same way that I wanted to be successful in the music industry. I was the same way with this. I just, every single waking hour, I was studying it. I studied even to the point where I had my dad go over the courses and then have him quiz me on it. So it's like, I really digested everything. And then what I did is I started a lead generation and a website design agency. And so for those that are watching and don't know what lead generation is, it's I was basically getting clients for contractors. So since I had the background in being an electrician, I knew all those general contractors were also struggling during the pandemic. So I know they were pretty thirsty for getting new clients. And so I would be running Facebook ads or Google ads just to get them more clients to the company. And I actually had some pretty quick success. I would go on Yelp and I would type in HVAC near me. I was in San Diego at the time. HVAC near me, plumbers near me, stuff like that, electricians near me, like residential, like the smaller guys. And I would call them, and I had the worst cold pitches of all time. I would actually pay a lot of money to find those calls, but I was just fumbling. I had no idea what I was saying or doing, but there was some semblance of a structure. It just wasn't as tight as it would be if I were to do that now. I was so green, but I ended up closing 4 clients at $5,000. So I made $20,000 like pretty quickly. I got a quick success, and it blew my mind. And actually, the first thing I did was I bought my dad his dream car. I gave it all away to him. He got a Eurovan camper, and that made me feel good because he'd been helping me for so long. It's like, it's time to give back. And then I called him like a month later. I was like, hey man, this is what I've done. He's like, what? Bro, this is insane. He goes, dude, it's pretty obvious. Like, you have some natural ability to close or do sales. And so he's like, hey, you should do this. Placed me on a high ticket offer for just like closing. And he's like, look, dude, you can make the same amount of money, if not more, with less responsibility. You know what I mean? So I was like, yeah, that sounds great. I just wanted to make money at the time. But in retrospect, I wish I had stayed building the agency so I would have learned everything that comes with being like a business owner, And everything just kind of spiraled down from there. I just got completely introduced to the whole Wi-Fi money space, and it literally has been an amazing journey. It was a quick journey too. It's not over by any means, and I am by no means an expert or have made it, but I think I'm on the right track and I'm having a great time doing it, man. Meeting great people like you too has led me.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of lessons in there for anyone that's listening that wants to, try and be a part of that online space and, be an entrepreneur and make money on your own and leverage the power of the internet and the tool that it is. You literally, invested in yourself up front, learned a lot of the knowledge. I had someone tell me the other day, like 90% of the knowledge can be learned in a 0 to 6 month span if you actually just really dive into a topic, even if you're completely new to it. Now that top 10%, that can take years of experience and learning and failure, but you can be really good to where you can at least hold your own at a high level in a specific topic. Like the tools and the internet and the courses, like it is there for our disposal and for us to utilize.
So much too, man.
Yeah, you took the shots, you did it, you invested in yourself, even when you didn't have a lot to invest in yourself. And, then it created something that gave you hope and made you realize like, wow, this is actually very attainable for me.
Something I want to add though, although I was lucky closing those, 4 clients, odds are not in our favor or even mine. I just got lucky because it was the pandemic and people were pretty, distressed. They needed leads. So I just got lucky. At that point, people were going to pay for anything just to get more volume to their business. But a big thing nowadays, it's kind of a fad to be an entrepreneur. And I honestly don't think it's a good thing. There was all this success porn and all this stuff on social media, once the pandemic slowed down, it's like you should, whatever you're doing, stop what you're doing. It's so easy to make 10 to 15K a month. Do drop shipping being do sales or this and this. And honestly, like, I think it's a really bad message because, like, yes, I got into high ticket sales and I did well, but once things slowed down, I really struggled because I didn't have that foundation that I would have built if I stayed with the agency. I was completely new to sales. You know, all this stuff was completely new to me. So when the hard part came, I was like kind of stuck in between a rock and a hard place. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't have the guidance. I had to figure it out on my own. And so this huge narrative that's being pushed is like, it's so easy to make 10 to 15K a month. It's not, man.
Yeah.
It's very fucking difficult. And like, I have a buddy, you know, really good friend of mine. He's a civil engineer. He's got a great job, has total financial freedom. He has tons of investments and he can travel whenever he wants. He's going to start a little side business. And like, he is way more comfortable and well off than like 90% of other entrepreneurs who even are trying it for a year, 2, 3 years. You know what I mean? So that's just something I want to be transparent about. It's not easy. You know, you have to put in the effort. And sometimes if it doesn't happen overnight or even in 6 months, you know, it's, you just got to keep going or realize like, hey, this may not be for me. And that's totally fine. There's tons of other ways to make great money and have a good life.
I think it's, like you said, success born, or however you want to look at it, you know, the narrative that is being pushed, that is a cool thing to do. And, you know, in reality, especially in those early stages, like entrepreneurship can be extremely lonely.
Yeah.
You know, I do both the corporate job and try and build at the same time.
Yeah.
And so I understand how both can work, whether in unison or, you know, separate. So it's interesting that that narrative is being pushed and it really isn't all, you know, roses. And it's actually quite the opposite for the longest time. Like, everyone who's been listening knows that this podcast has been going on for 3 years, and the amount of work and time and effort that you put in and, you know,
man,
that you pour out, hoping that, you know, what you're saying is resonating with people and creating a difference. Like, that's the exact same thing with building a business. And
it's so funny though, too. People stop, like, I'll use an electrician for an example. I was sometimes working 10 hours a day, or most times it was 8. And that's your schedule. When you go to work, that's what you do. When you leave, you're done.
Right.
And then when people get into entrepreneurship, as much as you put in is how much you're going to get out. You know, you could be having 16-hour days sometimes. You know, there's no real set schedule. Just, you know, you tend to work more as an entrepreneur.
Actually,
and see, like, way more. You know, everyone's like, oh, the freedom and all this and that. Like, yeah, but to have that freedom, you got to either have a crazy cash flowing asset or an exit or something. And even then, it's new levels, new devils, man. Once you have more money, it gets way more stressful.
I've heard people talk about that, like, you know, I don't want to get to X, you know, $100 million or past a certain point, because when you get there, it's like your lifestyle may not change hardly at all, and you just get a whole slew of additional problems and people who want stuff from you and other things that, you know, come with that beast as it continues to grow and build. You got to be a little sick in the head to just want to continue to push after a certain point, you know?
I was talking to Sebastian Georgiou, a good friend of mine. He was on Irrational Optimists Discord, I think a week ago. Great conversation. But him and I had a conversation recently, and I think Iman Ghatzi touched on this too. It's like almost an inconvenience to have that much money. Like, again, just new levels, new devils. You have like a million times more problems. A lot more people are trying, you know, maybe trying to get at you, trying to, you know, use you or all this stuff. And he's like, honestly, the best like time I'd ever had was when I was making like 30 grand a month, and that was it. And once I started making 6 figures, 7 figures a month, it made my life 10 times more stressful. And that's just like an interesting perspective.
Yeah, it's a lot of, I mean, it's a lot of responsibility too, especially when you have a full-on business with employees. It's a lot, becomes a lot bigger than yourself.
You're financially and a lot of times emotionally responsible for these people. Yeah. Like, not only are you making sure that they have a livelihood and food on the end of the table and pay their rent and all that stuff, but also like you got to take care of them emotionally too. Make sure they're good and they're performing and how they're doing in their lives, and like you're all like just a lot of other responsibilities start to stack up once you scale and also hire more employees.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's I look at that too from anyone that's listening to this that's in the sales space as well. You know, most organizations have, so you have 1,000 people in an organization, 30 people are going to be your sales force a lot of the times. Like, it's going to be a small percentage, and that is the core group of people who is bringing in leads. Obviously, it's a team. You got operations, marketing, all these other pieces of the puzzle that work together, inside sales and all of that. But it really is a big piece of, you know, you are the foundation of like building like this company, and those people, even if you're in a corporation, like their livelihood depends on you as well, and the strength of the business, how healthy it is, you know, margins, cash flow, all that stuff. So you just have to take the perspective and ownership of like, it's bigger than you. And I think that's what we're getting at here is like business is bigger than you, you know, what you're chasing is bigger than you, and you have to kind of really know what you actually want in life and have some vision towards that, or else you kind of can wander and be swayed left and right. And it's so easy today to be swayed left and right.
You hit on a lot of really good topics, and the thing I want to add is, you know, we're giving the vulnerability part of entrepreneurship, and I think that's great too, because for the most part, all people see is, here's my $200,000 Lambo or Ferrari. Here's me traveling. Here's all the girls, all this stuff. But they don't see the behind the scenes stuff. But honestly, on the contrary, on the flip side of this, it is the best character builder I have ever been through in my entire life. I've done a lot of things. I've experienced a lot of things. I've gone through a lot of hardships. And entrepreneurship is the biggest test of strength. One of them, right? In my opinion. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. And I had this pretty big realization, just like the other day, as Irrational Optimism is starting to snowball, and I'm about to sell one of my first businesses, which is really exciting. But I realized that I'm going to be stressed in a good way for the next for the foreseeable future.
Right.
And you just I can't even stop if I even wanted to. It's this is my life now, and it's good, right? But you start operating in this lifestyle and responsibility. You can't go back.
Yeah.
You can, and honestly, there's two ways to look at it. Make it turn bitter. Make you turn bitter, and you just be kind of like a miserable person. Or it's hey, this is what's going on. I'm gonna rise up and be a better person for not only myself, but for everyone underneath me that's depending on me. And if you have a social media following too, being a good role model for them.
Yeah, no, I think it's really important though, because so many people are oh, I want to be an entrepreneur. Why do you want to be an entrepreneur? Why? Or I want to start this business, or I want to do this thing. I want to start this podcast. Why? I mean, and then, it's because of this, and this. Okay, well, where did that come from? Yeah. And really peeling all the layers back and being able to be aware of what is actually driving you, what's your driving force, what actually makes you happy versus what may have been programmed subconsciously through what you consume, the people that you hang out with, the way that you were raised, maybe past trauma or events in your life.
Sure.
All of that can play a role into, what you think you're consciously choosing.
Yeah.
And you probably aren't consciously choosing that. I mean, there's a huge probability there sometimes.
What do you think would be a bad reason for someone to either want to start a podcast, start growing on social media, start a business? And what are some certain things that those that are watching should be asking themselves before they get into something? So it's if they just want to do it for vanity, if they want to do it to get more girls, all that stuff is fleeting. What comes to mind? It's hey, you should be cognizant of this and ask yourself these questions if that's why you're starting this.
Are you in love with it? And are you willing to do it when nobody's watching?
That's huge.
And if nobody watches, will you still do it? There was, when I first started the podcast, I was doing similar to you, learning and trying to understand everything about the forum and everything about how to grow it and build it. And, down to the technical aspects, to how to be a better interviewer, to, wasteland guests, all these things, right? And I remember listening to a podcast from Tim Ferriss, who
Tim Ferriss is great, man.
is amazing, right? He's one of the goats in the space. And he was talking about, before you start a podcast, he was know that you should be able to do it for a full year without any results. And I was oh shit.
Yeah.
And so it's this long-term commitment of this is what I'm doing, this is why I'm doing it. And it's not for this external validation. It's not to prove somebody wrong. It's something that I'm actually really prompted to do. And I feel a real spiritual drive to do these things. It's within you.
Yeah.
And because it can lead you down a dark path, right? When you put yourself out there like that and you may not get the responses that you want. And, even with you, I mean, what you've been doing recently and blowing up, and, a lot of stuff that's happening with you and your business at Irrational Optimism right now, people are going to have opinions.
Oh, yeah.
And you're already seeing people painting you in a certain light. And so that can be a mental challenge.
It's a lot too.
And you have to have a strong backbone and be able to check yourself to deal with some of those things too. Because vulnerability is a superpower, but at the same time, people are going to drag you through the mud.
Just a lot of good points as always. I love talking to you. But, it's easy to let, no one ever likes no one ever likes putting up a post that's maybe not controversial, not antagonistic, has no means to hurt anyone's feelings or at all, and you're just getting terrible comments. This is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. You're an awful person. All this stuff. And, no one likes to see that. I don't care, how tough you are. It's just not, I'm not stoked to see that. Obviously, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. But there is something to learn from the hate. There truly is. Yeah. And, what it really comes down to is framing of the content you're putting out. Yes, if you're posting something that's antagonistic towards someone else or a sensitive topic or, whatever, okay, it makes sense. But, for the video that just popped off for me, it was literally the least controversial or polarizing thing I think I've literally ever put out. It was just me just kind of talking in my California vernacular. And I just sounded like a super frat douche. And I saw it, and I owned that. But looking at all the comments, people were like, you're a terrible person, all that stuff. I was like, for what, man? For what? And what it really boiled down to is, I took a look at the video, and I was like, the way I'm framing who I am and what I'm sharing could have been really easily misunderstood, and it was.
Yeah.
So moving forward, I have kind of a tighter plan to make better I don't want to say better content, but just content that's not gonna make people say I'm an awful person for no reason, So you just learn a lot from that too. You just don't put a value on the negative or the good, right? It's so much like, yes, I had a lot of good messages, but it's so easy just to focus on all the bad, or even just one bad comment.
I feel like all publicity is good publicity.
I agree.
But at the same time, you got to be able to see through some of that. And in this short form, short attention economy that we live in today, you can take a snippet and something could be totally taken out of context. Yeah. And it's like, wow, okay. I mean, at least listen to more than 30 seconds of what I have to say.
Look into me a little bit. And honestly, that's just how the internet is. Just how it is. It's been like that since I grew up, watching YouTube videos and stuff. It's just people are going to troll no matter what.
Yeah.
And people hate on Mr. Beast, bro. Can you imagine that? He saved like 40,000 people with LASIK surgery for free. Give them sight again. People are hating on that. It's so philanthropic. You just got to be such a pile to hate on someone like that.
I want to talk about irrational optimism because I think this all plays into, what's been a huge driver for you and kind of the basis of, who is Jake. I think you're putting a lot of your DNA into this going forward. Yeah. And so what is irrational optimism? How did it become, and what is this community that you're building?
Dude, I get so fired up talking about it because it's something that keeps me up at night in a good way because I'm so passionate about it. And I'll give you this the story on how it came to fruition. Cool. I'll give you the story on how it came to fruition and then kind of what the plan is moving forward. So a couple months ago, I was kind of in a bad place mentally, or just I had a lot of stuff going on. My dad got really, really sick, and that was super scary. I had personal stuff going on, the businesses, I was having some hard time in the business. They were just I was getting hit on all fronts of just bad things. Right. And I was it was pretty debilitating. Came out on the other side, being irrationally optimistic, of course. And I had refound a huge new perspective and love for life again, because I endured the storm. I'm super happy to be here. I'm in good health. I got all these great things going on. My dad's good. My friends are good. All this stuff is great. Businesses are turning around. I had a huge new energy, bro. And that energy translated into my social media. So on my Instagram stuff, I would just let's go. And Twitter, I would just same thing, super hyped, happy. I was really supportive to other people and just always bringing everyone else up. And I was just super electric. And I had always wanted to kind of run some sort of community. It just always kind of inspired me. And what I did is I put out a tweet because people were starting to notice, yo, this guy is a lot of fun. Or I would get tagged under things of someone in having a good mindset, or because of me, or they saw how I was tweeting or being irrationally optimistic. 'Cause I had tweeted about that term a couple times, and some big accounts started to tag me about it. I was all right, this is cool. I put a tweet out and I was if I were to create a community centered around irrational optimism that had live calls, a couple times a week, and me kind of being a mentor for all the members on how I live my life. So it's mindset, relationships, business, health and fitness, routine, kind of the 5 pillars of how I live my life. Would you guys be interested in that? And I was I would also have special guests, and I'm building courses. I'm just going to give everything for you guys because I just want to give back. That's all I want to do is give back and help people have a better life on all facets. And it blew up with responses, bro. It was crazy. I got 300 plus messages and DMs and stuff. People were I need this right now. And then I was oh my gosh. I put down all my work for my businesses and built it for the next couple days, and I just put my blood, sweat, and tears into it. And then I didn't charge anyone, but it was free, but I wanted to make sure that the initial group of people that I was letting in were going to participate and really appreciate what this was and engage. And I opened up a reservation application, and people were hitting me up days later. It's hey, what's going on with this Discord? And I was wow, this is really reinforcing this is a good idea. And I released on all my socials, if you want to reserve your spot for Irrational Optimism, I'm only letting in 100, 150. Apply here. And the questions were simple though, but it was enough for me to gauge if someone's gonna take this seriously. And so I let in 150 people, and I got 500 responses. And I fucked it up too because I forgot to ask for their social media handles and emails. So that was a nightmare trying to find the people that I was letting in. It was dude. And then I had everything set up in there. I had spent so much time building the 5 pillars, giving a ton of advice and stuff on perspective on life, business, and all those 5 pillars. I had a really cool welcome video. We have fun contests. I had all this stuff lined up, so when people joined, they had like stuff to chew on, tangible like things to chew on. And dude, when I was sending out invites, it was the most like, electric thing I've ever experienced in terms of like internet. Like all 150 people like joined at once, and in the chat, like family chat, the main chat, people were going crazy, man, just like having so much fun, so happy to be here, so supportive of one another and introducing themselves and all this stuff. And I was like, oh my, I think I have something here, man. I really, really do. And I told them, I was like, hey, I'm going to be very transparent about this. This is completely new to me. I've never run something like this before. I've never even had live calls or something like that. So I'm going to be a little nervous, or I'm probably going to fuck up. It's not going to be, if I just bear with me here, because I'm new to this. And everyone was so kind about that. Like, Jake, this is already amazing. This has already changed my life. And I told them, I was like, hey, you guys are going to get everything of me. Everything. I'm going to give as much value to you guys as possible, because it means a lot to me that you're here because of me and believe in this vision and believe in each other. And so it's just been a huge thing for me to just give as much back as possible. And then a couple weeks later, we're having live calls, we're having AMAs. It's going amazing. I'm starting to get some testimonials. People are posting on social media about it. They're texting me, and I'm getting some of the craziest messages. People are saying, Jake, I was in a really, really bad place in life, and this saved my life. Other people are saying, I never even know I needed this until I was in here. Just tons of stuff about like how like life-changing it was to them, and it really, really made me feel good. Snowballed like crazy, man. And people are posting about it. Everybody's asking about it on social media. What is this? What's going on? Oh yeah, I like Jake. Or what's this Irrational Optimism thing? I'm seeing everybody tweet about it. Everybody, man. It's nuts. Even people that aren't even in the group or other big accounts, they're starting to adopt this mindset and lifestyle. They have an idea of it. People are tagging me or like saying I've inspired them. Even the people that aren't even in the group, it's like I want to act like this. Yeah. And I was like, oh my goodness, man, this is amazing. Okay, so let's open it up again. Did another opening, another like application process, and that blew up again. We got like another 150 people in there, so we got like 305 right now. New members, and dude, it's been a blast, man. It really, really has.
One of the best feelings in the world, I think, when someone can come up to you and say like, you really changed my life, or it changed my perspective. Good for us to hear. It's that silence that you work through a lot, and then all it takes is one of those comments to really remind you why you do what you do. I know I've felt that way a lot of times, and then people that you didn't even know were tuning in and listening reach out and just give you encouragement or say thank you. And I think one thing I learned from that, going through that journey myself, was that I need to do that for other people more too, and that other people need that friend to reach out to them and just say like, hey, how are you doing? How have you been? Or that random call to someone that comes on your mind randomly, just intuitively listening to that and calling people. It's really weird, because a lot of times those people will be like, man, I'm so glad you reached out. Like, I needed that. You never know. And so I think that's a big thing I've learned, and also just being in touch with like your intuition and your gut, and following that and not shying away from it, because when you shy away from it over and over and over again, that flame gets put out. And it's kind of like, it's like putting twigs on a fire, or like blowing on a fire and like watching it grow.
I would rather do it and then have it fail and then be happy with that, and then instead of regret that I didn't try something.
It's just amazing what happens when you really actually put action to it. But I'm interested in what your plans are, and I'm sure everyone else is, whether you're a part of IO or you're interested in a community like this. Like, what is the long-term plan and vision for Irrational Optimism?
That's a great question, man. I got a lot to share. There's a lot of stuff going on. We have some really big power players, some pretty substantial power players and brands that I've been in communication with recently for partnerships. I don't want to share those names yet. I want to lock it in before, I don't want to say something happened. It doesn't, so that's been going great, and that's going to accelerate the growth tremendously in terms of collaborations and social media growth, and getting the brand awareness out there is something we've been working on heavy. And then second, I'm working on school courses and other just content for the group, just to give as much value as possible to this group, and expanding on the 5 pillars more intimately, getting job opportunities in there, like really, really making this as value packed as possible. It's something I've been working heavy on pretty much every single day. So when people join, or even already members that are in there, keep getting value from this. And my goal is like, when they hop in there or they read something or hop on a live call with me, like, that's the best thing I've read this week or learned this week. And that's a really big goal of mine, is I want people to really accelerate their own lives. And maybe someone's really good at business, they don't need that, but someone needs help with like a mindset shift or a routine, and they come into Irrational Optimism, they see that, it's a big deal for them. So that's great. Really working on content. Another thing is I'm going to expand the philanthropic side of Irrational Optimism. And so I have a pretty sweet charity stream coming up. The details will be announced soon, but fun little sneak peek. I'm going to be dyeing my hair the Irrational Optimism colors. It's going to be like pastel blue and pastel pink. I'm going to be like Harley Quinn. It's going to be crazy. crazy. So I really want to try and do something philanthropic, once or twice a month, just to keep giving back, because that just makes me feel amazing. And then another really cool thing is that this is just not for guys or young guys or people's in their 30s or 40s. Like we also have a couple girls in there. So another huge plan is opening the Irrational Sweethearts, and we're gonna have a huge push to get girls in there. And so the 5 pillars are gonna be changed a little bit, but in terms of like a woman, which is awesome. It could be applicable to younger girls in college, older, whatever. And that's another huge goal, which I'm excited for, because I don't know where I'd be without women. Yeah, I know, exactly. And yeah, we got a lot of great stuff. You and I have some fun stuff planned. Yeah. It just, man, it's going to be my full-time thing. I just got to make sure everything else is tight in terms of my businesses and selling one and making sure the other ones are good. But other than that, like I want Irrational Optimism to be my full-time, work or job. I want to give back so bad, and I want to give back on a huge scale.
Yeah, I can definitely tell you're extremely passionate about it. And you mentioned your other businesses and the e-com space, and kind of what you've done there is definitely something to talk about as well. How did you get into what you're doing now currently, buying distressed e-commerce businesses, and what has been your journey with that so far?
Yeah, so this is that was a question that got me like semi-viral on the internet right now. I was working with my uncle. He was the ex-CFO of Goldman, and we were doing like asset acquisition, like consulting on the buy and sell side. So meaning like, let's say you have a multifamily and you're like, hey, I want to sell this. We would go and find a buyer for you.
Right.
Stuff like that. Across all industry verticals. It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot. But the one thing that we weren't touching on was digital assets. And I was growing on Twitter at the time, and I saw all these other people that I looked up to and had been huge, like, mentors for me getting into the space, where, there's e-com guys in there, agency owners, coaching, like all that stuff. I had realized, like, I had learned a lot, and I'd realized it's pretty much the same type of asset. Either it appreciates quicker, you can sell it for the same, if not more, versus the other stuff we were working on. It all pretty much aligned. I was like, why is nobody touching this? Like, it makes no sense. I know someone who's gotten, 8-9 figures for an offer for their e-com brand. Or I had a buddy who built his up from the ground in like 2 years, sold it for $2.4 million.
Right.
It's crazy. It's a lot of money. And so what I'm working with him, I'm like, hey, I have a really good idea for a business. And I respectfully part ways. I'm going to start my own things, phase 2 brands, where we buy distressed or underperforming e-commerce brands, buy them, scale them, resell them. Just like people do with real estate. They'll buy a whole list of properties, they'll remodel, they'll amplify it, make it all pretty and cute, but then they wait for the market to appreciate. That could sometimes take a couple of years, 10 years sometimes maybe, and then you resell it. Versus with e-com, you're in charge of the appreciation. You're in charge of it. Like, first off, we're not going to buy a brand that we're not confident in that we can scale. And 90% of the times when these brands are underperforming or distressed, their marketing sucks. But again, we're in charge of the appreciation, and then there's plenty of marketplaces, plenty of private buyers that'll buy these at a discount. And the brand has such proven equity and track record. If it's making $50K a month in profit, like for the past 6 months, it's pretty easy to tell when you'll get your investment back. So then in that case, you can sell these at like 3 to 5x sometimes.
And what are some of businesses that you've done that with, or you're currently doing that with? And I guess some of the bigger lessons that you've learned within that piece. I think you had a good point there in terms of the marketing, and that landscape is changing so quickly. But we're seeing a lot of people really take advantage of that. And I feel like if you're not taking advantage of it, then you're putting yourself at a disservice. And so what are some of the ways that you've taken those companies and kind of help that appreciation phase?
My due diligence process is way better than when it was when I was first starting off. And again, I am no expert in e-com. I had gotten into this business model because e-commerce really fascinated me. You need to be great at everything to have a good brand. You can't just have a good product and then terrible marketing. You need to be good at everything. Customer support, the product itself has to be good. The marketing has to be great. Email marketing. There's so many moving parts that you need to be good at for this to be successful. And so that really attracted me to it. But realizing that I had a lot more to learn is a big thing. While I was going through closing and money raising, I was studying e-commerce every single day. And I was studying from a guy named Davey Fogarty, who's got one of the biggest pajama brands in the world. It's called the Udi. It's done over $500 million in revenue or something crazy like that. And he had Alex Hormozi style content, just giving out free value. It was awesome to learn from. But there was a point where I was just studying his stuff so much that I was getting information paralysis. The thing at the end of the day is really you just got to put it to work. And so that's, you got to get your feet wet.
Right.
Your hands wet, dirty. You got to go in the trenches and you got to test shit and see if it works. And so that was some big lessons. It's I had studied so much much and heard so much from other people and my friends and this and that. You just got to do this, this, and this and that. And I would do it, and when most of the time it wouldn't work, it's like, okay, why? Why is it not working? Blah 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 blah. Just keep testing. And I think the biggest lesson though, out of all of this, someone that's in e-commerce right now has a brand, you need to be doing short form content. You need to be using TikTok, Instagram Reels, and YouTube Shorts. It's free to post on. One video can change your business forever.
Yeah.
It could blow up, and now you have $30,000 worth of orders.
Yeah.
And like it's free. And then here's some sauce. You post a video, and if it does well on TikTok or Instagram Reels or whatever, all right, it's pretty likely it's going to convert. You just run ads on that one. Maybe you just mess around with the copy or call to actions or whatever. It's pretty easy to know. Like, it's a pretty good indicator. Like, hey, that was a good post. Like, you should run ads on that. Put some paid traffic on that. It's over.
There's so many different examples of this, but for instance, one of my friends, Tyler Hogan, shout out to the millennial realtor, but realtor out in DFW, just started getting on TikTok and like actually putting some effort into it, and posted like a lifestyle one of like a day in the life of a Dallas, realtor. And he's had a lot of success in the space, but it was a cool video put together well. It was like, all right, let's see what happens. Posted on TikTok, it goes viral, and literally it's landed. He was telling me the other day, it's landed like sold $1 million home from it, and that's anyone who can do math knows that that's a very solid commission. He's landed like another property that he sold off this one video from people seeing him on the internet, being like, damn, this dude is sharp. I love his style. He's in a penthouse, like obviously he's doing well, all these things, right?
All it takes is one video.
All the leads that come through, and like it's like day in the life of a Dallas realtor. So then people in the DFW area, and it's just genius, right? And it's free. Yeah. Like you obviously have to put the time in, but it's free. And that's why I think podcasting too for businesses, I know you and I talked a little bit about this, and we're in the middle of building an agency, but podcasting literally gives us that platform and the way to utilize it, help you drive demand, help you build authority, and also, help you be a lead generating magnet through this short form content that is now readily available and accessible for everybody. And like you said, it takes that one.
It takes one. But a big thing that I want to say though is make sure there are proper call to actions on those calls. There are plenty of times where people will have a video blow up, get like 20 million views for their ecom brand, and they'll get like $200. You got to be very cognizant of that.
Science to it.
Yeah. There's a method to the madness.
Yeah, followers don't convert to money.
And for the most part, all these people on these like platforms, they need to be handheld. They need to be told exactly what to do. Follow me for more. Go to the link in bio. Put this discount in, or comment your favorite underwear color. I don't know. You know what I mean? They got to be told exactly what to do, or it's probably not going to convert to money or followers or whatever. You never know.
So you had mentioned, the businesses that you were building and kind of, taking your lumps, learning from some of the failures that you may have had early on, and creating different iterations of what you were doing in the marketing space, what you were doing with the businesses, and what was having success. So obviously along that path, there was a lot of failure.
Oh yeah.
And so I want to hear, what your relationship with failure is today, and how do you look at it and use it as a stepping stone?
That's great. So it kind of is the same thing with life. I want to get here, and I'm here, and I know that path isn't going to be like that. It's going to go this, and this, and that. It's going to go all over the place. But as long as that end goal stays in your mind, right? It's the discipline. It's not the motivation. That stays there. You're going to be just fine. Yeah. Because you're going to get there by any means necessary. And I talk about this often, especially in Irrational Optimism. It's okay to grow horizontally sometimes, or stop what you're doing and pivot and grow horizontally so you can grow vertically elsewhere. That's totally fine. So again, like the biggest thing with failure, and it's how I've been my entire life, is that I've just been so stubborn with what I want that I don't care what it is. I'm gonna get there. Like, I swear to God, I don't care. Yeah. I'll allow myself to be sad or something bad happens for like 30 minutes, and I just go, all right, kick those feelings out. It's time to get back to work. You just you can't afford it. Yeah. And the best thing to ask yourself is, would it help me being sad or lashing out, right, or being mad at the world or something that I fucked up on? Would it help being like this? No. 100% of the time, the answer is no.
You mentioned the attitude that you bring towards those situations and just hanging out with you for the weekend and, getting to know you a little more. It's very evident that, that's true to your lifestyle and true to like who you are. Not that we don't all have bad days, but I feel like that is really who you are. So thank you. That charisma and that attitude and that irrational optimism, I mean, it is a great word to describe. How did that get cultivated? And, was it always like that for you? Or was there a moment for you where it switched, like, I want to live my life this way?
Yeah, I've always been that person. Yeah. And to put it in kind of more context, when I got to San Diego State, I went to San Diego State for a little bit. I wanted to make the campus as small as possible. So what I mean by that is I wanted to be able to walk at any part of the campus and, hey, what's up, man? how's it going? But like have a good interaction. And you can't build good relationships if you genuinely don't care. Like you can't just like fake being genuine, because one, it's like people can tell that immediately, and then two, you're just wasting both the individuals' time. And so a funny little thing that I told you this yesterday, that how I operated is I wanted to make the campus as small as possible, but I wanted to be tight enough with whoever I met they felt comfortable enough to comment on an Instagram post I put up. I wanted to have a good enough relationship where if they saw me post something, they'd be like, yeah, fuck yeah, Jake. Like, and like, think about it though. Ask yourself this question. If I meet this person or I find friends in my life, are we cool enough for them to comment on something I have or slide up on my story or interact with me publicly? If not, I mean, I think you got to build it a little bit harder. And I know it's kind of silly, but it's like you can take that same framework for, you know, once you get out of college or in high school and you go to move to a new city, say hi to everybody, go to the cafe, get tight with the cashiers, this and that, say hi to people on the street, go to the park, just like give, and like take care of those in your life. Just be genuine, be a good person. It's not that hard.
Right. And I think that's where what you're doing is differentiating, because, you know, we've seen a lot of phonies in the online space. We've seen a lot of transactional people.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of Ponzi schemes, and it's hard to kind of see through that. But what you're doing with leading with value and really being authentic to yourself, I think people can sniff out bullshit,
immediately.
right? And so, you know, being philanthropic, you know, having a bigger vision for what you're actually doing, you know, that shines through. And
Thank you.
if you were to say what another differentiator was for what you're currently doing, the community you're building, or maybe even just an outlook on life,
Sure.
like what do you think, or what have you realized that maybe some people haven't realized in their mindset?
So for some people that know me, and again, I mean this in the most non-arrogant way possible. You know, some people have reached out to me like, hey, Jake, you really inspire me, or you really motivate me. I really want to be like you. And again, by no means have I made it. I still have a lot of stuff to learn. Like, you know, I really don't know what the fuck I'm doing in this thing we call life, and I'm having a great time while I'm doing it. But I have a really good friend, and this is probably one of the best pieces of advice ever. If you want to be like me, be yourself.
Yeah.
That's what I'd have to say. That's the outlook. Be unapologetically, authentically, 1000% yourself. And the people that don't like you for who you are, fuck them. Who cares? You don't need them anyways. They just saved you some time and headache.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a bar. Bookmark that one, everybody.
Yeah.
Because it is true. I think we talked a little bit about, you know, the subconscious feelings, beliefs, and like even the things that we tell ourselves we believe when in reality it's
real.
Probably for other things.
Yeah.
And it all starts with that self-love, self-awareness, and knowing like truly who you are and what you want to accomplish in life, and that you won't, you know, bend your morals and standards to try and fit some mold that isn't actually who you are.
I got a great thing to add with that. You know, you're talking about self-love, and I have a really good piece of advice for going through hardships and inconvenient things that happen to you, is you find humor in it. You find comedic relief. You know, let's say you go up to this girl and you want to ask her number. She's super cute, and you fall down, you shit your pants, you roll over, it's raining, and you just completely embarrass yourself, or something really bad happens. Maybe not really bad happen. Let's say like you fall and you drop your food. Just like inconvenient things or even bad things that happen in life, you find comedic relief in it. So what that means is when those things happen, you force yourself to laugh, or you find humor in it, the lightheartedness in the situation, because what that's doing is giving you more self-confidence and comfortability in your own skin. You know, if those inconvenient things can happen to you and you can walk away with a smile, it's not going to bother you.
Right.
And it's going to radiate with other people. And again, what that's doing is instilling self-confidence. Like, right, if something really serious happens, you're not going to, you know, laugh at it like Heath Ledger, but you're going to be more comfortable and more composed when those things happen, or when other small inconveniences happen, and you can just walk away and laugh at it. You're going to be way better off in your own skin. And like a kind of a thing that I would tell myself is that when that stuff would happen to me, I couldn't wait to go home and tell my friends this story so we can like, they could roast me, or we can like make jokes about it and stuff like that. So yeah, just wanted to add that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just have to realize that that's a part of life if you're on this path.
Yeah.
And, you know, it is a hard path. Like, life is hard at a lot of times. Like, you know, you're going to have to bring a certain perspective and a certain, you know, like funk to life to be able to get through the mud and the things that are difficult. And I just think, you know, being able to have that mindset and being able to look at life in a comedic way, because, dude, at the end of the day, we are so small, and, you know, a lot of our problems and issues going through don't matter. And if you can take that lightheartedness to everything that you do, it allows you to kind of, you know, separate yourself from a lot of people who may be so like, you know, tight and tense and like, I want this thing so bad. And just like girls and anything else, I feel feel like whenever you chase, it doesn't attract,
Sure.
right? Usually it runs away, and you want to be able to build that persona and build that lifestyle and build that character that people are, attracted to, and that is magnetic.
Yeah.
And I think you only do that by being yourself, or else you're going to be attracting the wrong people, and that is not what you want to do, whether it's friends or women. That's the crazy part, though, because that's the thing. It's like you could play this game and put this mask on, but then you're going to be attracting the wrong people in your life.
There's got to be points in your life where you got to be able to realize that if you're attracting the wrong people or the wrong, whatever, or situations, you got to be like, all right, this has happened more than once. It's not them, it's me.
Right.
You got to all right, why am I attracting this, or why do I like this? And you got to realize like, hey, this is not healthy. I can't keep attracting these types of situations in my life or people.
We've talked kind of about like the degradation of society, so-called.
Man.
You hear a lot of this red-pilled stuff, and especially if you're in the Twitter space or anyone that's talking about, we're seeing a huge push towards like the masculine energy right now. And I think the best way, there's a lot of stuff and advice out there right now that I truly do not think is great advice for men. But
I agree.
What I can say is Aubrey Marcus, he said this really well, a warrior poet. I think like every man should try and be a warrior poet, and that they are dangerous, like physically, mentally sharp. They have the ability to protect the people they love. They have the ability to be dangerous in the workplace, make money, someone that other people look to and they respect. At the same time, it doesn't need to be a hardened wall where, you're wearing this mask of like, oh, I'm the tough guy. But you can also have those conversations. The walls can be broken down, and you can tap into that feminine energy or that other side of you that is human and that is able to have empathy and kindness and forgiveness. Wrong with that. Right? And it's like the marriage of those two is the balance that I feel like needs to be taken, the path that needs to be taken.
Like you said, there's big push now with how to be a man and how to attract girls, or how to hold a relationship, or how to carry yourself, show no emotion, give no fucks, all that stuff. And honestly, like, I think it's all bullshit, man. I think it's all bullshit. Like, there's no reason why like chivalry should just I've been on like all these dates recently, and I get out of my car and wait for her and open the door, and she's like, no one's ever done that to me. It's like, it's crazy, man. It's like, why not? There's nothing wrong with that. I don't look like a simp because I'm showing that I care and have respect towards you. And right, they're like, obviously, with emotions and stuff, it's a pretty sensitive topic. You're just not going to trauma dump and all this stuff on them, but like, it's okay, just share your emotions, right? Just within reason and like being respectful about it. I just think there's such a fine line between not giving a fuck and also not giving a fuck is a very particular mindset. It's like, there's like, hey, I don't give a fuck, and then there's like, I don't give a fuck. And it's just, I think it's so misconstrued nowadays, man. And really what it boils down to entirely is just being a genuine person. Actually care about the other person. It's just care.
It's interesting too, because a lot of these guys that are giving like girl advice and relationship advice and like how to be a man, they may be single, like never held down a good relationship, don't have kids, and don't have families. And it's like, to me, I think if it depends on what game you're trying to play and what game you're trying to win at, because you could gamify the whole hookup culture really easily. That isn't, that doesn't bring happiness at the end of the day.
It's not good. It's not good at all, because when people have one night stands, they feel like shit after. It's like the same thing. It's like when people would either masturbate and they would feel like shit right after they did that. It's like the same thing. You have no intimate connection with this person. You don't know anything about them. You don't care. You're really just using their body for masturbation. That's why you feel like that after. It sounds like it sucks that like love making it sounds kind of silly, or like that red pill stuff calls it like simp or beta or whatever. But it's men's sexual energy is one of the most powerful energies or powers that we embody. If you're just dumping that all the time for a quick dopamine release, it's like you're wasting that. You know what I mean? And I think the hookup culture shit needs to go, because for the reason I just stated. But we need to bring back morality. Bring back morality. And honestly, I think it's way more badass to have a phenomenal relationship with a girl that you love and she loves you, and it's a symbiotic relationship. She's her feminine, like who she is biologically, like her imperative as a woman, and you as a man. Like I think there's nothing more badass than that. And then you have an amazing family, and you guys go through life together and are truly just supplemental to one another. Like that's what I want.
People can get it wrong sometimes and like think that they're gonna lose their edge.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think that's cope.
Yeah,
it's cope, bro. It's like we understand.
Yeah,
you understand that lifestyle can be fun, but like, what is that gonna do?
Novelty.
It's
a
empty.
Novelty. Yeah.
It's an empty vessel.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing is finding someone who can complement you and help you become a better person person and have similar values and, you know, be able to align with them in that way, because ultimately, like, that is what's going to lead to longevity. That's what's going to lead to, you know, good communication and a good relationship, in my opinion.
You know, I always think back to like aristocratic, like 1940s, like World War II type stuff, you know, and the husband and the wife and the family. Like, I just think those dynamics are just, it's so desirable. And that's why, like, that, I think America was phenomenal then. All that stuff that's just been pushed more recently in the West is kind of why all this stuff is here, and why we're like a lot of young men are struggling. They just don't know. They don't have a foundation. They have no role models. They don't know how to really act or how to treat women or how to hold a relationship. Infidelity is like a common thing, you know? And it's just, yeah, man, it's sad, but it's honestly, it's up to us to bring it back.
And I think that, you know, it's interesting too, because a big part of that is what is pushed down your throat in the movies and what's quote unquote cool and in media. And, you know, a lot of this is like an undertone of, you know, content and things that have been pushed to us that you don't really necessarily realize.
Yeah, it's a great point.
Until later on. I mean, you know, with porn and everything, it's like so accessible, but it ruins
porn, Netflix, like, the movies, all that stuff, the TikTok, and like what those platforms are also allowing to be pushed, stuff like it's pretty scary. And then all these, like, you know, here's a great example, a little bit of an extreme one, but, you know, a lot of OnlyFans creators will promote their content on TikTok, and, you know, there's young people on TikTok, and these girls will see or hear their friends who may know a little bit more, and these girls are making $30,000-$50,000 a month. It's just, you know, crazy money. And the girl's like, I can do that. I want to do that. When the girl turns 18, right? She's been exposed to all this stuff at a young age, and she turns 18 and she starts it and she starts doing it, and it fails because, one, it's a business at the end of the day that, you know, that needs fulfillment and marketing and you know, all that stuff behind it. And then it fails. And now that content is on the internet forever. It's pretty degrading. They feel like shit.
Talk about marketing. We were at the beach a couple of days ago and saw a plane flying by with the banners on the back, and it literally had a girl's OnlyFans on the banner. I'm like, okay, that's like, now we're gonna see OnlyFans on billboards.
It's sad because it's so mainstream now. Like, all these porn stars are like celebrities now. They're like A-list celebrities, and it's like that type of work is applauded or something. I don't know. I think it's pretty demonic, to be honest. It's bad because it really, what it is just making men less sharp. They're just dumping their sexual energy.
Sexual transmutation. If you've ever read the book Think and Grow Rich, I mean, this was a book written a long time ago. I don't want to be misquoted here, but I mean, it was maybe in the like 20s, like 1920s, and it was by Napoleon Hill, and basically he studied a lot of like the most successful people in that time, like Rockefeller and a lot of others. Literally in this book, he talks about sexual transmutation and the power of that energy and how it's one of the most powerful energies that we have available to us. Like, think about it, like everything, like, at least I could speak from a men's perspective, like everything men do at the end of the day is for sex. A lot of the times, like, we're driven by women, and we're driven by our sexual nature to reproduce.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Biologically, or to make money, or to be famous. Like, a lot of that is driven by that undertone. So whenever you take that energy and you actually direct it into something that is positive, and you use that life force for something else other than, you know, countless hookups or self-pleasure even, you know, it's like you really channel something greater. And I think all of that woo-woo stuff behind all it is self-discipline. It's having self-discipline, and that will bleed over to every aspect of your life. If you can't discipline yourself in that, like, you're not going to be able to discipline yourself in other ways, the way you eat, the way you train, the way that you're consistent with your business. And funny enough, like, that energy transmutes to every other aspect of your life. And then you're also able to have more intimate, fulfilling, real relationships, and it's not just objectified by looks and, you know, by shallow things.
Great points, bro. But another thing is like, think about it like this, right? In like your personal life, and you want to start networking with higher level people or having higher quality women or friends or whatever. Think about it like this. Those types of people wouldn't want to be around someone who has no discipline, can't handle them out, can't handle them, you know, the masturbation, you know, the porn watching, stuff like that, or the quick dopamine pushes. Like, why would they want to be around that? It's kind of like an accountability thing.
I want to talk about, you know, your travels a little bit, because you've, you know, lived in different places. You often traveled overseas. What was your favorite place you went so far?
Great question. The one that surprised me the most is China. China. I lived in China for a couple months. I signed to actually China's biggest record label over there. Biggest record label and event curator called Modern Sky. It was a blast. And I had all these preconceived notions about China. It was gonna be dangerous, communist, super dirty, all this stuff, and it was a blast. Great. I was just too young at the time to really reap the benefits of that opportunity. But again, I really grew a lot from that. But I also, on the contrary of that, I went to Costa Rica about a year ago, actually. Costa Rica was amazing. It was amazing. I know we're talking about going soon. Yeah. It's going to be a lot of fun. But the thing over there is that they live life in the moment and they have the right priorities. And that really inspired me because, I have the G-Wagon, I have all the fun stuff here, all the toys, all that cool stuff, and none of that shit matters, man. None of it. If I had the G-Wagon in Costa Rica, they'd be like, man, dude, you have all your priorities out of whack. I want to be living out of my bathing suit. I want to be sunburned all the time. I want to have to worry. The only worry I want is to be able to, if I'm going to miss the surf or not, or having a bonfire and stuff like that. I really want to live, holistically, sustainably like that and live out in nature. It's when I feel the best. And so Costa Rica has been really sticking with me. Like I said, we're going to go soon, but at some point I could definitely see myself in there.
Yeah, you mentioned the holistic lifestyle, and I think a lot of that does imply, getting away from the screens and getting out into nature and connecting on a different level than we do these days. And it's that pretty balance, between being able to recharge your batteries but also staying on grind. But I also want to talk about, what health and fitness has been to you.
Yeah, man.
And recently I know you kind of went through some transformations in the way that you look at life and that section of your life. So what has that done for you and what was that like?
Dude, I want to credit, a lot of it to, my best friend and roommate, Logan Fitz. When I moved to Miami, I had been going through a lot of just pretty bad stuff in my life, and my health went shitter. And I got here to Miami, and dude, I don't know if you've seen the transformation photo, but when I moved here, it looked terrible within a couple months of working out with him and eating right. Night and day difference. And really the biggest thing is what I was putting in my body. That has been the biggest just shock to me, is that I was just putting anything in my body. I wasn't cognizant of how bad 90% of the stuff out there is. Mainstream too, and people don't know that. And I got my eyes really wide open to what I should be putting in my body. Not only was I feeling better, I had way better energy. Brain fog was gone. I felt excited again. I was super confident in my own body. And dude, just it's funny. It's not difficult. You just eat real stuff, organic food, grass-fed beef, and dude, it's why is this such a crazy thing? But it ties into this narrative of trying to control the West in a way. And once I got exposed to that, I was like, you just can't ever go back. And look, I'll indulge in an In-N-Out burger, you know what I mean, and all that stuff. But if 80% of the time, if your health and fitness is on dial, I think it's okay to have something like that every now and then. Yeah. But nutrition was the biggest thing.
Yeah, I think it's going against nature, honestly.
Yeah, no, honestly,
it's just all of the artificial foods, sugars, and processed
all that
foods, and it's just this isn't even real food. It's literally manufactured food that's not real. So what do you think it's going to do to your body? When you look at it that way, it is going against nature.
There's a great saying. It's if your grandparents wouldn't eat it, you probably shouldn't eat it. And then even more so, if they wouldn't eat 100 years ago, you probably shouldn't eat it. Another thing is if you can't pronounce an ingredient, which is some chemical, pharmaceutical type name, it's I don't know what that is. Why should I be putting that in my body? Yeah. Ingredients should be pretty small, and it should be like honey, butter,
Yeah, less is more there.
Yeah, man, definitely.
Well, we have an incredible view behind us. The sun is coming down. And the question I always love to end with is, what is your definition of success?
I love that. Definition of success. Oh, I actually just thought about this. It's a great question. It can mean a lot of ways, right? But it's true happiness in what you're doing. But second is giving back. That's my definition of success. If I can impact one person, I'm good. Yeah. That's what I would like to end on. And giving back is just the most fulfilling thing. I would rather give $10,000 than take $10,000. Yeah. Nothing feels better than giving. And if I can put a smile on someone's face or make someone feel better about themselves, that's what success is.
Yeah, and you're doing that with Irrational Optimism. Yeah. And I'm so excited to see the continued growth.
Thank you.
Continue this friendship.
Yeah,
where can everybody find you if they're interested?
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening to. All my handles are the same. It's Jake Youngblood, but Youngblood is YNGBLOOD. It's the same thing across every TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. It's all the same. And stay posted hosted for Irrational Optimism. We plan on opening it up again soon. We've got a lot of huge plans, and I encourage you guys all to apply and be a part of the movement.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, thank you so much for checking out another episode of the Breathe and Air podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, go check Jake out. Go check out Irrational Optimists and be a part of the movement. It's definitely something that is not going anywhere. It's here to stay.
We got some fun stuff together.
Yeah, sneak peeks coming soon. But if you guys enjoyed today's episode, you know the price of admission. 1, share it with someone who you think gets something out of it. And 2, put one thing that Jake or I said today into action.
Love that.
So that is your price of admission. If you're feeling a little extra giving, as we were talking about, you can go comment and leave us a review and rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you're listening. Subscribe and let us know what you think of the show, because it helps us continue to move forward and grow. So thank you guys so much for joining. Listen to another episode of the Breathe and Air podcast, and we'll catch you next week. Boom.
Thank you so much for having me and having a great conversation, being a good friend. That was a blast, bro.